let's move over to the moral agent. So, what is a moral agent? So, philosophers often disagree about which of these and other conditions are vital. So, the term moral agency is used in different degrees of stringency depending upon what one regards its qualifying conditions. Okay, so according to Immanuel Kant, that uh, the moral philosophy about the moral agency about Immanuel Kant is the most stringent, since they are different senses of moral agency. Answers the question like, are collectives moral agents? So depend upon which sense is being used. Okay. It is well, however, that reason should know its limits, and we are not to seek for the origin of the moral obligation in any of what are merely results of this exercise. But anyway, concerning about moral philosophy of Immanuel Kant, that will be dealt with in in chapter 2 as well as in chapter 5 later on, and I will try to elaborate moreover about his moral philosophy. Okay, so let's move further about morality. Here, morality can be defined as the standards that an individual or group has about what is right, wrong, good, or evil. So it is an informal public system applied to all rational persons, governing behavior that affects others, and has a lessening of evil or harm as its goal. Morality is a complex concepts and philosophical beliefs by which an individual determines whether his or her actions are right or wrong. Okay. So, who is the morality can be used? So, as I've said, it has been explained earlier, diba? Descriptively, here, descriptively, to refer to certain codes of conduct put forward by a society or group. So, as I've said, it's an example is the religion, because we have different moral standards in each religion, because one religious sect cannot impose this moral standard to the other religious sect. For example, Roman Catholics to born again Christians, as well as the born again Christians to the Roman Catholics as well. Next one is normatively, to refer to a code of conduct that, given specified conditions, would be put forward by all rational persons. Okay, so next. So what are the key features of morality? Okay, number one, you already read it here, that every one of us, all of us experience a sense of moral obligation and accountability. One cannot doubt successfully a phenomenon of its own existence, namely his moral experience. Even philosophers like Kai Nielsen recommend that one ought to act or follow some rules, policies, practices, or principles. Even an atheist, in the name of Richard Dawkins, declares that there are some moral instructions on how we ought to behave. Next one. So actually, moral values and moral absolutes exist. So it's hard to deny the objective reality of moral values. Actions like rape, torture, child abuse are not just socially unacceptable behavior, but are moral abominations. So do you remember a certain um, broadcaster from a uh, from a popular TV network who committed sexual relations with someone, an OFW, who was at that time a minor. Oh, you know that one already. So, he's a popular newscaster, by the way. Okay, and what he did until now is many people bashed him because what he did at that time, that was 22 years ago or 21 years, that was an abominable act, no? It's not only unacceptable behavior, but the moral abominations. When I say abomination, that means yuck. Something, that you do not, something that you hate, no? So therefore, moral absolutes exist. No matter, so all people, we have the sense of about we have the sense of morality. But anyway, we can I can explain that one further on the next features. So that is why moral law does exist. So when we accept the existence of goodness, we must affirm that a moral law on the basis of which to differentiate between good and evil. Moreover, it is known to all of us. That is why it is a natural law. Natural law, for example, natural law ethics. It is a moral philosophy of Saint Thomas Aquinas. What does it mean? It's known to humans. What is the natural law? Natural law states that all of us are created by God. That's according to Saint Thomas Aquinas. And when God created our souls, God has already pre-installed into our souls a certain moral sensibilities in order for us to distinguish what is right and wrong based on our common sense, the use of our common sense. So that is what we call it a natural law. That's why morality is objective as well as absolute. So there is a real right and there is a real wrong. It is universal. Therefore, it applies to all. It's immutably true, independent of whether anyone believes it or not. Next one is moral judgments. It must be supported by reason. So, moral judgments are different from mere expressions of personal preference. So they require backing by reasons. In the absence of such reasons, they are merely arbitrary. Now, let's proceed here to the main idea. A moral agent. Can a dog be a moral agent? Now there, here in the comic strip, there you have it. He gave his wife chocolate for Valentine's Day, a gift of love and kindness, or the vicious act of a calculated killer. You decide. You know already that chocolates are poisonous for our beloved pet dogs. The defendant sat down when he was told, therefore he's a good boy. Case dismissed. Okay, so it's talking about the dogs, but actually we're talking here as man. Why? It's because man is a moral agent. Why is it that a moral agent? It is because that we are capable of acting with reference to what is right and what is wrong. So in acting what is right or wrong, therefore we can be held responsible for the behavior or responsible in our own decision making. Next, another thing, it's not only capable of acting what is right and wrong, but we are also considered as an intelligent creatures, no? Because our intelligence presupposes our will of choosing or choosing, the power of choosing, and the scope to act according to our own choices. Okay, so moral action is an action which springs from choice. So it is not necessitated either by mental propulsions or external circumstances. So therefore, our moral actions are based on our own free will. So in other words, no one compelled us to do what we want to do, but instead it is based on our own knowledge. That is why intelligence. It's based on our own will. That is why it's free. And moreover, since that we are intelligent and free beings, we have also to consider responsibility or accountability. So in other words, that in everything that we do, we are held accountable for our own actions. So it is distinguished on the one hand from instinctive action. So when something or someone is deemed a moral agent, it does not necessarily mean that they are that they are successfully making moral decisions. So in other words, that since that we are a moral agent, it does not necessarily mean, it's mean that we are successful in making moral decisions. Sometimes we can also commit mistakes. So in committing mistakes, we can be blamed for ourselves for our own wrongdoings. Oh, tamang kayo upan. Mag-adis-adis mga mag-drug addict pa. Naman gani broadcaster o newscaster ng rape pa basta dili ng abuso o minor. So that is it. He's a moral agent, but in the other hand, because of what he did, his actions are morally unacceptable. Okay, a moral agent must be a living creature, of course. A dead man can tell no tales. Dead man tells no tales. Oh. And a dead man or a corpse cannot act on itself. So it should be a living creature. Moreover, able to comprehend abstract moral principles. That is why we're intelligent beings. And to apply them in our own decision making. So they must have, number one, we are self-conscious. Number two, we have a memory, moral principles, values, and reasoning faculty, which allows him to devise plans for achieving his objectives, to weigh alternatives, and so on. Okay, so let's proceed with Aristotle. Aristotle was born on 384 and he died on 322 BC. Now, Aristotle was also explained in his Nicomachean Ethics about moral responsibility. So, he was the first one to discuss moral responsibility. That he stated that it is sometimes appropriate to respond to an agent with praise or blame. So if he did something good, of course we praise the person. But he did something wrong, we blame the person on the basis. So what's the basis of our praise or blame? It is the basis of our actions, or not only actions but also his character. moral character niya. So he discusses that only a certain kind of agent qualifies as a moral agent and is thus properly subject to ascriptions of responsibility, namely, one who possesses a capacity for decision. So it's just the same as before. So a decision is particular kind of desire resulting from deliberation, one that expresses the agent's conception of what is good. So moral agency is not just about which rules to follow, it comes from a way of life. So that is why Aristotle devises a virtue ethics, a virtuous life, which necessitates a unison of thought and feeling. So sometimes people would really like to help you, but if your behavior is just like that, ayaw na lang. Okay, so let's play the video.
Moral agent. A moral agent is a person who has the ability to discern right from wrong and to be held accountable for his or her own actions. Moral agents have a moral responsibility not to cause unjustified harm. Traditionally, moral agency is assigned only to those who can be held responsible for their actions. Children and adults with certain mental disabilities may have little or no capacity to be moral agents. Adults with full mental capacity relinquish their moral agency only in extreme situations, like being held hostage. By expecting people to act as moral agents, we hold people accountable for the harm they cause others. So, do corporations have moral agency? As artificial intelligence develops, will robots have moral agency? And what about socially intelligent non-human animals, such as dolphins and elephants? Indeed, future philosophers and legal scholars will need to consider moral agency as it applies to these situations and others.
Okay. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to my YouTube page for more videos on Philo 101 subject. Once again, I'm Sean Xavier Alcalita. Thank you very much.